Engineers class. I'll let Ashley introduce herself. Ashley's been a former student of mine from 2015, I think we said, right?
Yes.
And she did take my marketing class. Just had to give some props. And she's going to tell you her story about her marketing journey. My apologies, I'm finishing off something. So welcome, Ashley, and hold your cell phones away, please. That would be much appreciated. So enjoy, and I'm sure she'll be able to ask questions when it's time. Okay.
Perfect. Okay, that sounds good. Hi everybody, my name is Ashley Rowe, and I am the proud founder of a company called New Leaf Co. Essentially the idea behind New Leaf Co. is it helps small businesses get the recognition they deserve. So traditional big businesses have lots of money for marketing budgets, they have lots of money for different sales and things like that, and the goal with New Leaf specifically is trying to make marketing more accessible. Marketing can be more accessible with information. There is so much information out there about what's the right thing to do, what's the wrong thing to do, all the different types of media. So the first thing that we really target is making that more accessible, making small business owners not fear marketing and making it something that they can really love and enjoy. And then the second side of things is just making marketing affordable. Traditional agencies can charge thousands of dollars for work to be done, and what my goal has been through New Leaf Co. is just making it more accessible. I started this company because I love to be here to help, I love to be here to share my story, and just tell people that careers and career paths like this are actually really attainable. So getting things started, I'd love to know, does anybody have, and just like a show of hands, some type of passion for marketing, entrepreneurship, business, anything like that? Some variation. Awesome. Okay, not everybody, that's okay. But the goal of today's speech is going to be really sharing my story of sort of how I actually became an entrepreneur, and then the importance of finding your fire, which is just more of an overarching theme that at certain times in your life, there will be lots of people cheering you on, there will be lots of people excited for whatever that thing is. I don't know what that is, if it's like a sports team, an extracurricular, something you're passionate about in your community, your family, whatever that is. But there's also going to be a lot of times in your life where it feels like nobody's watching. It feels like you have to be the only person motivating you. Now, as an entrepreneur and running my own company, there's not somebody telling me what to do each day. I don't have a boss telling me when to work, when not to work. So for me, it's a lot of self-regulation. But as doing other extracurriculars and things, there's also going to be times where you have to put in the hard work to do those extra practices. You have to put in those hard work to do that homework, whatever that is. And my goal for today is hopefully explaining the importance of finding that thing. I don't know what that is for you. Hopefully we can figure that out today and use that to fuel education, to fuel extracurriculars, and all different things like that. So, starting a little bit about myself. Oh man, I'm skipping all through things. So, as Mr. Hiscox mentioned, I actually went to Saunders. I learned in this classroom here. I graduated from Saunders in 2015, or was here in 2015, started in 2013. So it's been about 8 years since I've been back in these hallways. But that being said, I am a 24-year-old entrepreneur. A lot of people shy away from talking about their age, especially being a woman in business, because it could show maybe a side that I'm less qualified or things like that. But my hope with showing this story and also explaining the fact that I'm 24 is that these career paths, these achievements, these things are incredibly attainable. But that these career paths are incredibly attainable. And your age should be less of a factor of that and more just the dedication that you actually put into that thing. Perfect. So, some things that we have kind of already touched on about. I am the founder of New Leaf Co., which we'll kind of talk a little bit more about today. I'm a social entrepreneur, so a big part of what I do is being an entrepreneur, but another big part about it is doing these public speaking things, doing community events, so that more people can feel connected. In the world that we have right now, there's a lot of people around, but it's incredibly lonely. As an entrepreneur, I face that every single day. I don't have a team around me that supports me. I'm not in a classroom anymore. I'm learning every single day, but I don't have that support system. So what I try and do with public speaking, what I try and do with these community events is make the world feel 5% less lonely. we're filled in a room right here with all these different people, but through these events, through these connection points, I hope that people see that there is actually a community out there for you. I'm also just wrapped up my first teaching semester as a professor at Fanshawe College. I actually went to Fanshawe, graduated from Fanshawe, and then went back and taught that course. Same thing again, these opportunities are available for you at any age. I graduated from the program 2 years after I went back and taught it, and that's because of what I was able to do with New Leaf Co. I've been nominated as one of London's top 20 in their 20s for my efforts with New Leaf. We've been featured on Global News, Rogers Television, and various podcasts centered around the idea of just getting more youth involved with entrepreneurship. It doesn't have to be a big company, it can be any idea that you're looking for, and there's incredibly attainable ways to make that happen. Another big thing about me that I love sharing is that I love to run, I love plants. The New Leaf Co. side of things is actually around my love for plants and gardening. Our little slogan is that by turning a new leaf, we're giving people the opportunity to truly succeed and grow. So what I did was I took my love for plants and gardening and transformed that into a job that sustained me for the past 2 years. I'm lucky enough to have my own team now, but I also have 5 incredible girls that work for me, and all of it started from that passion of plants. Plants and marketing, in theory, don't really go together, but what we try and do with New Leaf Co. is bridge that connection. So using things like grow, planting the seed, all of those different kind of analogies there. And what I was able to do was share my love of plants and gardening and actually bring it into the company that it is today. I'm a runner. I just completed my last half marathon last weekend, and I'm right now training for the Royal Victoria Marathon. So something that I do outside of the business is work with an amazing organization called Fast and Female. They help young women get involved with sport, movement, all those different things. I absolutely love working with them, and they have been a big catalyst in my journey to show that through movement, there's so many incredible ways to take care of yourself, and we'll definitely touch on that a little bit more. Now, for today's talk, I'm going to spend a lot of time talking about entrepreneurship, but as an entrepreneur, most people start off with a product or service. They want to solve a problem in their community. So to get things started and to kind of break the ice a little bit, we're going to play a quick game of true or false. Now, there's lots of amazing entrepreneurs and amazing products out there, but there's also quite a few weird ones. So the idea behind this game is pretty simple. I'm going to show a product up on the screen, and I'm going to want to either see a thumbs up where you think that this product actually exists somewhere out there, somebody has bought that, or we think it's false, there's no way that that could possibly exist. Sound good? Okay, so the first product that we have here is, I know it might be a bit hard to see from the people at the back, it is a cheese printer. It appears to print photos on your favorite brand of cheese. I want to know either thumbs up or thumbs down. Do we think that this is real, or do we think not a chance? Okay, I see some thumbs up, some thumbs down. Right on, right on. Okay, can I ask somebody from thumbs up, why do you think it's real? Anybody put their thumb up for that?
Because it's funny.
Because it's funny, I like it. Any other reasons, why do we think it's real?
It fills a niche market.
Feels a niche market, absolutely. There's a certain type of person that might like that. Yeah, go ahead.
They make anything these days.
They make anything these days. I like it. Okay, now let's do the contrary. Why do we think there's no way that this exists? Anybody from that category? Anybody who said not a chance? No? Okay, right on. That's fair. That's completely fair. Okay, so all of that being said, great arguments for and against. This first product is false. It does not exist. This is not something that exists. I found this on the internet. It does not actually exist. We're going to do the same thing again. This is a product that appears to be different flavors of soda. We have bacon soda, buffalo, sweet corn, pumpkin pie, ranch dressing, peanut butter and jelly. Thumbs up for this exists, and thumbs down for not a chance. Okay, I'm seeing a lot more thumbs up here. That's good. Anybody spitballing, why do we think that this is real? I like that. Okay, target demographic. That's good. Perfect. Any other reasons why? One more. Just one more. Why would something like this exist?
People like bacon.
People like bacon. Fair enough. And for this one, the answer is true. These are actually readily available on Amazon. I would not recommend buying them, but it is something that truly exists. We have 2 more. This next one is a Nicolas Cage pillow.
Oh, that's true.
Okay, right on. I love the strong answers, So again, thumbs up or thumbs down, what do we think? True? Right on. That was pretty easy. We have another true product available at Amazon.com. Again, there's a demographic for everybody, so this product exists. And then the last one that we're going to go through today is toe tunes. So these are slippers that are attached into sneakers. It's just weird enough. Do we think true or false? Okay, seeing some mixed signals. Give everybody another minute. Seeing some down. Okay, for anybody that says not true, why do we think that?
Why would you ever want to play something with your toes? You have fingers.
Fair. Absolutely love it. One more reason against. Yep.
If you can't control, or no, if you don't have hands, you can't
You can't control the music?
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. And then 4, why do we think this product might exist? Any reasons?
Happy feet.
Happy feet? Perfect. And then I think you had one?
For kids, maybe.
For kids, right? They need something to do. That's awesome. Okay, so all of that said, unless anybody else has any for or against. Okay, perfect. This last one is false. Does not exist. So the reason why I wanted to do that was, first of all, to kind of break the ice a little bit. These presentations are a bit weird to come up and listen to somebody talking about their journey, but I hope that this isn't a story of entrepreneurship that starts with somebody who had $1 million loan, starts with somebody that had, a big grant and things like that. My journey from entrepreneurship, which we're going to get into today, actually starts from working at the Black Walnut downtown, and starting from just my college laptop. It did not start from a big crazy idea, it didn't start from a big team, it didn't start from anything else other than the fact that I found a problem and I wanted to try and solve that every single day. So, as we've already talked about before, the premise behind New Leaf Co. is very simple. Making things more accessible. Now, what New Leaf Co. does is marketing, but what I hope New Leaf Co. becomes a bigger motion that there's opportunities to make things more accessible. Accessibility for me comes from marketing, but I think there's so many other areas that I'm going to try and tap into as well to, again, that same theory of just making the world feel a little bit less lonely. The services primarily target small businesses and non-for-profits. We're a woman-owned and operated business. We do social media management, graphic design, web design, and etc. And so far, the company has been in business for the past 2 years, and we supply marketing services across Canada and the United States. So in the past 2 years, we've been able to make quite a global impact, all by helping small businesses and really just making it affordable and accessible. So if you know some small businesses in the downtown core, we've worked with big organizations like the United Way in small ways to help out with their marketing. We work with your average restaurants downtown. We work with the small mom and pop shops and the much bigger organizations. And through all of that, it's a very simple thing, which is just, again, accessibility, making things affordable, and making marketing not seem like this big scary thing, but actually something that can be a lot of fun. So what are some examples of small businesses or entrepreneurs that you look up to? Now this can also be changed a little bit to just some examples of small businesses that you guys know of, entrepreneurs that you know of, anything like that. If anybody could share maybe one that they know of. Thinking of like downtown. What?
Yours.
Yes, I like it. That's awesome. Any other businesses? Even one more example. Like a small business downtown, maybe. Maybe like the Covent Garden Market, if you guys go there. Are there any businesses that stick out in that area? That's okay, that's okay. So, some examples of small businesses in the downtown core, ones that we've already talked about. The small restaurants, the Covent Garden Market is a great place to go, but there's also lots of different independent farmers markets that do all sorts of types of different products, services, and things like that. But obviously the first example being New Leaf Co. I like that. So the first concept that I'm going to talk about today is actually my choice between college or university. So I sat in a classroom just like this, And I was faced with that ever-daunting task of trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. Now, at the time when I was in high school, you could ask me any day and I'd probably give you a different answer. I knew it had something to do with marketing, but I didn't exactly know where I wanted to go with that. Now, at the time, the friend group that I had was all very set on going to university, which is incredible opportunities. But for me, because of different life circumstances, I was able to go to college. So when I started off, I ended up going to Humber College, which is down in Toronto. But because all of my friends at the time were going to university, they were going to get a degree, and I had no idea what to do because I couldn't get into those university programs. And I was so scared that because of this education level, that it would set me up to not be an entrepreneur. When I heard about entrepreneurs, I heard about these Ivy League educations, these big courses, these families that have had generations and generations of businesses. I thought to myself, how would that ever be possible for me? I ended up going off to Humber. I went there for 1 month, realized that I went to school because my friends and family wanted me to do, and not for something that I actually wanted to. Now for me, there was a college strike that happened at the time, so you could drop out with pretty well no obligation. It's not always as lucky for most people, but what ended up happening is I moved out from that college, and I went to Fanshawe. And I started at Fanshawe, and I started in the business marketing program at Fanshawe, and for the first time, I made a choice that wasn't because my friends were doing it, that wasn't because my family wanted me to, or different things that I thought that I had to have for my career. It was because it was something that I genuinely wanted to do. I went to Fanshawe, I took the business marketing program, I took a 2-year-long program, and it set me up for success. That 2-year-long program was everything that I needed to get started as an entrepreneur. All levels of education are amazing, all levels of post-secondary are incredible, but the only piece of advice that I want you to take from that is when the time comes when you're considering that, whether that's in a few months from now, whether that's in a few years from now, pick something that you feel passionate about. Because at the end of the day, when whatever my career looks like, I'm the one who has to spend 9 to 5 there, or whatever those hours are. When I went away to school and made a decision because I thought my friends were doing it, I thought my family wanted me to do, they aren't experiencing that 9 to 5. They aren't in that actual day-to-day. So the first biggest tidbit of advice that I could give you is when you're thinking about these things, even if it's courses, whatever that looks like, I don't know what that conversation is, pick something that you truly feel passionate about, because that is going to take you so much farther. Now, as we've talked about before, I went to Fanshawe, I did the 2-year program, I absolutely loved it, and then this past year I actually came back and was a professor of that same program. All that to be said, I absolutely loved my time at Fanshawe. I remember at first, when I started being an entrepreneur, being worried that people would see through that I don't have this incredible background and these incredible resources. But at the end of the day, people just cared about that people-to-people connection. People will not remember the education, they will not remember the clothes you wear, they will not remember anything else other than the impact that you made with them. So I hope that through the conversations you have about schooling and education, you remember very clearly that people are not going to remember anything else other than the positive impact that you left on them. Fanshawe was a big catalyst in my early career, and from there, it started in my first corporate job. So I graduated during COVID, which was an awful time to hit the job market. I had my first start in marketing and sales after not having a job for 8 months because COVID just did not allow for jobs to exist at that point. I started at a marketing and sales company out in Lambeth. I learned a lot. I had some very powerful bosses that taught me maybe how I would be a different boss when I went and started my own company. But I knew from this moment early on in my career that it was a great career to have. I learned a lot, but it wasn't something I was passionate about, and it didn't end up working out because the passion wasn't there for me. I went to these jobs because it had the right title, it had the right people in it, different things like that. But when I actually became an entrepreneur, I realized that it was so much more important to just go after that passion. Now, this is where we're actually going to get into the talk about how I became an entrepreneur. So soon after I left that corporate job, I got hired into my next corporate role. Now this was for a huge marketing agency, and at the time I had the job. I had the title, I had all of these things that when I was in high school, all the things that I could have ever dreamed of. I had the things that I wanted, I had the status, I had the money coming in, and all of those great things. And this is what my journey started to look like. So we started here from leaving it. I started climbing up this corporate ladder, for lack of a better word, and I got up to a certain point, but what I didn't realize during this up was that I was so unhappy. I was doing a job that I felt nothing towards. I was not being treated with any respect in that role, and I had no idea because, again, when you think about it, you think about when people ask me about my day back then, they would care about, the title. They would care about, this, nice corporate lunch that we went to, or, whatever those things are. But what I didn't realize throughout this whole process, what I was straying away from was the things that I love. I didn't touch my plants because I was too busy working for so long. I didn't even know about running at the time, and that's something that I can't picture my life without. So I get up to this point here, where I have all the things I thought I wanted, but I was the most unhappy that I'd ever been in my entire life. And then one day, a Tuesday afternoon at 2 p.m., my entire team got laid off. It was a COVID layoff, and for somebody who hasn't experienced that yet, which I hope that obviously hasn't happened, all of the things that I thought I had at 1:59 were gone within a 5-minute meeting. I didn't have the job anymore. I didn't know if I was going to be able to pay rent that month. I had no idea how to explain to my family that this career, this thing that I was so proud of, that I got to talk to everybody about, was gone. I remember packing up that day, leaving that job, and having no idea if I was going to be able to afford to live the next month. This results in the low. Now, the reason why I talk about this is not something to scare you. It's something to show that even if you have all of these extra titles, curriculars, whatever that is, it's very, very important to understand who you are underneath that. What I didn't realize was because I was spending so many hours at that job, I stopped actually doing the things that I loved. And when push came to shove, I didn't know who the person was underneath all of this. So what ended up happening here was I started working at the Black Walnut downtown. I started working, I was just doing coffee and handing out desserts and all of those things. And for me, that was, I just needed to make money. I needed to do something. But the craziest thing is that my friends who were all still in school and the people that still had those jobs, they still had those. But for me, I had no idea who this person was. Now, at this time, a friend of mine told me about this concept called freelance marketing, was essentially the idea that you can sell marketing services on different platforms through different communications and things like that, and you can create a job for yourself by doing something that you love. I was like, that sounds awesome, that sounds great. But the problem with me is that once I get excited about something, I don't stop. I get very excited about it, I put my everything into it. There couldn't be a single notch of somebody telling me something different. I just go all in. So I remember my friend told me that day about freelance marketing. That night we went out for dinner and I started researching New Leaf, all of those things, writing down the first company names. And that is what catalysted into the company that it is today. What New Leaf Co. started with was my negative salary from the Black Walnut. It started with my college laptop that was hanging on for all dear life. And it started with this vision that, number one, I would do something that was actually making an impact for these businesses and helping people in a very, very meaningful way. And the second thing that I learned from those bosses in those early days was I learned exactly how I would never, ever treat my employees. And hopefully that, through my job and through this business, I can help uplift people, whether they're my staff, whether they're community, different things like that. That is what I want to do. Now, the reason why I talk about this is because it kind of looks like a heartbeat. When I was putting this together, I started realizing that with most things in life is going to sometimes look like this. The most important takeaway that I want you to have from this slide is please remember the things that you love. When school is getting tough, when extracurriculars are getting tough, when family and all of those things, these things happen, I hope that you remember those things that make you you, because those are so incredibly important. I can't imagine a day now without going out to our garden. I can't imagine a day now without trying to go for a run, planning a run, whatever those look like. They're going to be different for everybody. But I hope that throughout this, learn from my mistake of forgetting all those things and try and keep those as consistent, as close to you as possible. Now for me, one of the big things we talked about at the beginning of this talk was find your fire. Those 2 reasons that I talked to you about there, those are my fire. There's a lot of days as an entrepreneur, like days like this, where I get to come up and I get to talk to you guys about, look at how amazing this company is and all those things. But the truth is, there are so many lonely days. There are so many days when it feels like nobody is looking at the company, that I'm doing all the wrong things. These things happen. But what I hope that you realize from this talk is this layoff every single day reminds me why I'm doing what I'm doing. I don't know what that looks like for you guys, but I hope that you find that peace that continues going after whatever goal that you have. And that's how my entrepreneurship journey started. It started with this layoff that ended up pushing me farther than I ever could have imagined. So now the company starts growing. Very early on into owning the company, I was nominated for one of London's top 20 in their 20s, which at the time was insane. I could not believe that somebody believed in this idea as much as I did. And it was such an incredible honor to see that this is something that people actually believe in. There was that first bit of recognition, and that's where I got very situated on the idea that more businesses deserve this. More businesses deserve whatever that moment looks like for them. So the first thing I want to talk about is my very first networking event, which was actually at the award ceremony for that award. So at this award ceremony, everybody was talking about their big companies and their big this and their initiative to change that. And one of the exercises that it actually had us do was to talk about yourself, but you couldn't talk about your job title, you couldn't talk about your education, you had to talk about who you were. So at the time, everybody was coming up with all these different answers, and I got up in front of everybody and I said, hi, my name's Ashley Rowe, and one day my entire apartment is going to collapse. And people kind of looked at me weird. Most people were doing weird answers that still uplifted them in some way. But the idea that I had behind mine was very simple, that during COVID, I, like many people, got very, very obsessed with different hobbies. Mine was building furniture. Don't ask me why. I'm not a carpenter. I have no idea anything about that. But I started building furniture. I was building tables, I was building chairs, I was building plant shelves, all those different things. And that is why I truly believe my apartment is going to collapse one day. It's because I went ahead and built all those things. Now, the reason why I want to talk to you guys about this is something that was very important to me, is when you're introducing yourself in these different settings, I hope that you remember not only the courses you're taking, the extracurriculars you're a part of, but also something fun about yourself, something that sets you apart, because at the end of the day, what people remember is the impact that you made, and very, very much less about the education and different things like that. So now the company starts growing. We've been in business for about 1.5 years at this point. Things are going really well. I'm bringing people onto the team. It's incredibly amazing. We're making impacts. We're stretching more globally. We're doing all the things that I had set out to do. And then I was asked to be interviewed on Global News, which was absolutely crazy. I never thought that this would be something that was happening, but it was. And so I did the interview. It was the basic idea behind it was just getting more women involved in business, getting more people accepting of women entrepreneurs and different things like that. But what ended up happening is the interview went live, and for the first time in my life, I received comments not from friends and family, not from anybody that I knew, but from outside criticism, essentially along the lines of that women can't own a business. It was crazy. First of all, you get feedback from your friends and family all the time. You can kind of shake it off. But it shook me to my core, because these were people who I had no idea who they were. They don't know me. They don't know anything about me. But they were making these assumptions that, well, a woman can't run a business, and all of these things that very outdated, there's a lot we could go on in there. But the thing that I wanted to share with you is that was the first time I realized that this company, because it's being talked about in this way, is doing something that's making enough noise to be talked about. So the takeaway that I hope you take from this slide specifically is understanding that if there are people talking about the thing that you're really excited about, school club, extracurricular, whatever that thing looks like, it means that you're doing something worthwhile. And I hope that whatever that is for you, you continue to go after that. Because at first it was incredibly scary to receive these comments. But what I ended up realizing from that specifically was that this is actually making a big enough impact that people do have these conversations. They're not the right conversations to be having, but there is some level of impact there. Now, at this point, again, the company is continuing to growing. We're heading into our second year of business now, and it has been an absolute incredible ride as an entrepreneur. But something to share, again, is that it looks different for everybody. There's lots of small businesses that I've had the privilege to know. Some of them shoot up really fast, some of them have a very slow trajectory, some of them don't end up working out. But one of the biggest things that I've learned throughout any of this entrepreneurship journey is to be very, very consciously aware that you do not have to come from this pre-described background of what an entrepreneur looks like. Every single entrepreneur or every single student is going to look differently. There is no right way to have a job, there's no right way to be a student, and there's certainly not a right way to be an entrepreneur. So I hope what you really take from this is find that thing that excites you. I don't know what that looks like, and you can find different ways to make that into a community project. Maybe one day make that into a business. I would love to answer some more questions about it after if anybody has them, just about more tangibly about being an entrepreneur. But I hope that this talk serves as an example that all it started, this was actually a pothos plant. This is one of my favorite plants, called the Queen of Marble Pothos. One of my best friends created this logo for me. All of this started was because I found a plant at Hemans that I really loved, and now is a company that serves globally and helps empower women, helps empower youth, and of course helps empower small businesses. But all it took was a leaf. All it took was my college laptop, and all it took was that idea that every single day I try and do something differently than those big corporations treated me when I was so young in my career. Now, the next thing that we're going to talk about, of course, is where we are today. I think one of the biggest things that I've learned is I was so situated on the idea that after I left school I'd stop learning. That is not true. I learn every single day about how to be a good boss, how to understand marketing. That's changing all the time, all the different apps and things like that. But one of the biggest lessons that I learned is that learning's never going to stop. Might feel like I don't have a test anymore, but there's lots of different ways that the world sure finds a way to test me in those ways. And I think one of my biggest takeaways that I hope that you get from this section of the slide is understanding that going after your own passions, not what somebody else wants for you, not what your friends and family want for you, is so incredibly rewarding. I absolutely love the job that I get to do every single day. Now, if anybody, and I know we didn't fully have people interested in business, and that's totally okay, but if this was ever something that you want to consider, the Small Business Center in London is incredible. They have so many high school programs as well where you can get a taste of actually owning a business someday. At Fanshawe, they have a program called the Leap Junction program. Essentially what that looks like is while you're at Fanshawe, you can get a grant to start your own business. It's a really great program. And then Ivy also has a bunch of great free micro-credentials that are also something you can look at too. Lots of different streams of education, lots of different streams of resources that you guys could potentially use if this was something that you'd ever like to consider. Now, in summary, the key takeaways that I'd like for you guys to have from my presentation is these three things here. The first one is that career paths, and this can also be education paths, this can be life paths, whatever word suits for you here can look different for everyone. Try your best to do something you feel passionate about. Now, I know not every passion is going to turn into a career, but I hope in some way you find whatever that passion is, and please continue to implement that in your day-to-day life. The next thing that I would like to say is networking can be incredibly helpful early on in your career for your first jobs. Now, networking might be a crazy thing to talk about this early on, but the people who are in your class, the teachers, I mean, we had this connection from all of these years ago. The teachers especially will be great resources for you in the future to help develop your career, so make sure to stay in touch with them as well. And my final takeaway from my job specifically is that marketing is constantly changing. It's very hard to wrap your head around some days, but it's also a lot of fun. And that's what we try and show our businesses every day. That can be true about many careers, is there's aspects that you can have fun in any job that you're able to take on. So, that being said, thank you guys so much for letting me come and speak today. I'd love to leave time at the end for any questions that you might have, anything about New Leaf. But this is all sort of the context about New Leaf. And truly, from the bottom of my heart, thank you guys so much for listening today. And yeah, thank you so much. So I don't know if anybody had any questions. They don't? Awesome.
How did you advertise your services?
Yeah, so in the beginning, it actually started with the New Leaf Co. website. So in the beginning, it started with a website, a Facebook page, an Instagram page, and that was it. For me, I didn't have any big money to sort of put behind it. So my how it actually began was I would go out to farmers markets on the weekends and just start handing out people my cards, and not in a way of saying, come and buy my business because I'm the best person. That would be weird. Coming at them in a way of, hey, I'd love to learn more about your story. I'd love to learn more about you and how you did it. And that was the beginning stages of how it sort of jumped from there. And now it's kind of word of mouth and different advertisements because it's a bit bigger, but it's a really great question. Thank you so much. You got one?
You mentioned that people can do freelance marketing online.
Yes.
What platforms can people do that?
Yeah, so it's an amazing platform called Upwork. So Upwork is a platform that, and it's not just marketing either. There's if you like writing, if you like art, digital art, different things like that, Upwork is an incredible platform where you can have different services or things like that. For me, it just started with making a portfolio about New Leaf, but there's lots of different ways that you can translate your interests on Upwork, and then it's almost like a proposal system. So if people have a project, you can basically put your name in the ring and different things like that. But yeah, Upwork.com was absolutely great. Okay, any other questions?
I'd say most people are changing jobs up to 6 times in their lifetime, doing something totally different.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say, as a group, always, always, always have something to fall back on if the door all of a sudden closes. The economy goes up and down about every 10 or 15 years, and you have to plan for that. I've worked for myself since I was 18. I still work for myself. If I was out of a job tomorrow, I'm back working for myself. I'm not going on unemployment, okay? I have something always to fall back on. She's had to change jobs a number of times through necessity and through wanting to have a total different change. You have to be open to that, and you have to be able to adapt to new technology. You couldn't have done this 15 years ago, could you?
No, definitely not. I think the
Okay.
mediums would look a lot different.
This past summer was the first summer since I was 18 that I did not work for customers. And I do not want that for my retirement. Okay? I'm going to be working in my retirement for what I want to do, but I'd say always have something to fall back on, because you never know what's around the corner.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing. Any other questions, guys? Yeah, go ahead.
You talked a lot about passion, and I know that a lot of people end up changing their career choices, whether you're working for 10 or 15 years in that same department or that same area. If you were to change your career path at any point, would you stick in the marketing section, or would you completely change it up?
That's actually a really good question. I think for me, if it couldn't be marketing, something that I've always loved a lot is just bringing people together. So I think if I could, I don't know if I have the skills for that, but I'd love to get into maybe fitness training or something like that. The idea of like marketing, it's helping people through marketing, but fitness training or something like that can be helping people through sport and through movement, and like kind of what I talked about before, that's been a big part of my life. So if it wasn't marketing, it would hopefully be finding some way to help people that isn't just like a traditional career path, basically. But that's a great question. Thank you so much. Yeah, go ahead.
At the start, how did you like convince people they could trust like handing over the marketing to your business?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think one of the biggest things that I did very early on was try and explain sort of like the Fanshawe and like that background side of things, but just meeting with people, because at the start of the presentation I told you guys how old I was, but if I didn't start with that, people would have no idea. So when I go into those sort of situations, I would never say, like in the beginning, that I'm 20 years old and I'm like just getting started out. I go into that with the mindset of, I have the right education, I have the things that I need to do to be qualified, and just have those conversations as on the same level as them, if that kind of makes any sense. And basically, from there, it was able to help build trust, and then obviously the longer that you have clients, the more it kind of builds trust in that way. But one of the biggest things that I always try to do was just make sure that finding different ways to respect them in a conversation, but making sure that they respect myself back. That makes sense. That's a really good question though, thank you. Yeah, go ahead.
How were you able to be a prof so fast after taking the course at Fanshawe?
Yeah, so for me, one of the biggest things that I've kind of talked about a few times is those connections. So for me, it was actually a previous professor of mine that I had worked with, and this is actually a big topic I don't even think I got onto during the presentation, but one of the biggest things is you're only, I forget what the saying is, but you're only one step away from your next thing, but what often holds us back is not asking. So for me, in the beginning, all that the business was just asking people for their time, asking people for that. But what actually happened with Fanshawe was, if I didn't ask, that would have never been a career path of mine. But I just started with the connections that I knew over the last few years. Hey, is this an opportunity? Hey, can I come in and speak at Fanshawe? Can I come and talk? And then there was a position open. I ended up having everything that I needed to, and it's good to go from there. But I think one of the biggest things that we do, and we often hold ourselves back from, is just not asking. Whatever that reason is, maybe we're afraid of the outcome, maybe we're afraid of getting a no, but all of the biggest things that have happened from New Leaf is just advocating for myself. There's a lot of no's though. I don't want to stand up here and say, oh yes, I walked my way through all these different things. There are so many times people say no, metaphorically slam the door in my face, all of those things. So there's going to be a lot of no's out there, but you'd also be surprised in careers and things like that, if it's the right person, how much people are actually willing to help and connect as well. So thank you so much for asking that. Any other questions? Yeah, go ahead.
A lot of people believe in the notion of a deal of a lifetime. If there's one place that you can aspire for your business to get to, is there some point of success that would contribute to that point for you?
I think for me, what I hope, and that's a really great question, I think for me what I hope success looks like is maybe less of a company size. And again, it's hard to track your impact, but what I would hope is that New Leaf actually becomes less of a marketing company and more of just a way that people communicate with each other, that these growth and plant things and all of that are a way where, even if it's not directly impacting me, there's more community spaces coming up because of this New Leaf thing, and just more accessibility in the marketing field. If I were to have a dream though, I'd love to take this even more global. I'd love to have a really awesome team that stretches farther, and we can have some more full-time people on, that would be amazing. But I think hopefully what it can be is just tracking the impact of, how many people know about New Leaf, how many people know that these career paths can be fun, and even if it's not specifically marketing, how can more people feel just a little bit less lonely? But I like that. Thank you so much. Any other questions? Yeah, go ahead. I love it.
Very random. But does your brand image being a leaf ever mess with people and think you're just a plant business?
It definitely has. That's super fair. A lot of times people will get confused. One of the things I try and do with the marketing is because I have a background front-end marketing. I'm pretty good at making it clear, but there's also lots of times I've gotten on the phone and people think I'm going to sell them plants, and I'm like, just not true. But that's a really good point. One of the things we try and do with marketing specifically is if somebody gets onto the social pages, it's lots about education. So it shows the love of plants and gardening, but it's more about educating people on marketing. So hopefully if they click a few posts in, they're gonna know. But that's a really great question. And yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, go ahead.
Last question. If there was like to be a book wrote about your career path and your career span, what would you want the title of that book to be?
These are great. Okay, this is really testing me. I think the book would maybe be a title, I guess, what I kind of titled the presentation, which I know would take a bit far to get back to, but like Finding Your Fire, I think would be like the title. And the goal behind it is just helping more people find whatever that thing is to keep them motivated, to keep them going. I've never had that question before though. I respect that. That's awesome. So yeah, maybe you'll find that on a shelf one day. Find Your Fire by Ashley Rowe. We'll see. It's awesome. Sweet. Okay. All good. Well, again, thank you guys so much for your time today. If you have any more questions or things like that, I have like the New Leaf Co website. We have the New Leaf Co social media, all those good things like that. But seriously, thank you guys so much for having the time today. And I hope you guys have a good rest of your Friday. Thanks for being here. Sweet. Yeah, it's all good.
Thank you so much.
Oh.